That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I'm Sid Part 2, and Danny the Lizard is down there, and he's probably going to run off and cause all kinds of chaos in the video, but he needs to exercise. So, anyway, we'll start this week with the last thing I read, which is Sensation Comics featuring Wonder Woman number 16. So this issue was both a hit and a miss for me. The first story I really didn't care for. This is almost a Trinity book in an odd way. The first story I didn't really care for. It was just about Wonder Woman in Gotham helping like some kind of lizard skin lady. And they don't really explain much about the lizard skin lady, which is weird. She just says she's a monster living in Gotham, and she seems to know who Wonder Woman is. And I don't know, I was under the implication that like she was literally a Greek monster, but they don't really go many places with that. It just kind of gets the implication that she's like, got a skin disease. I don't want to say freak because that's just mean, but it's just that's the implication we get by the end of it. That being said, I do like that Professor Pig gets to be a villain again. It seems like he's been sadly missing from comics lately. Then I really don't like the art style that they use for this. Everything's so flat. It doesn't look very dynamic, and that kind of bothered me. So I was really disappointed by that, and I don't know, I thought the story overall was just kind of lame. People just look kind of flabby. Everyone's got this. There's not enough shading of skin tone. It all just looks really, really flat and really not good. Is all it comes down to. That and the story itself just isn't that good at all. I mean, it's Wonder Woman is looking for a couple deformed kids who were kidnapped, and she beats up Professor Pig and finds them. And she beats up Harley Quinn as well, and that's really it. Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was pretty bad. Or not bad, just kind of a meh story with meh art and not enough uniqueness about it that I thought it was really disappointing. Ultimately, here's the division of the book. So we only get 2 stories this time around, and it's painful how much better the shorter story is than the longer story. It really hurts that the shorter story is that much better. It's just Superman and Wonder Woman hanging out for a day. Off and on again. And it's really fun, and we just get to see Wonder Woman do a bunch of cool things, including officiate a lesbian wedding. That's pretty cool. She marries the couple, and she uses the lasso of truth in place of like a Bible or something. So that was really cool, and she and Clark go flying through a thunderstorm because it's like running through a sprinkler for them when they get mud on them and stuff. And Superman talks about how when he was a kid he could never really play with other kids because he always had to be worried about them. And he talks about how that moment of shooting through the rain cloud together is the closest he's ever gotten to that. And she says, Clark, in the Amazonian dialect, there's no word for brother. From today on, it will be Kal-El. That's really sweet. If you're not a Superman Wonder Woman fan, I think that's a good alternative. Is that they're like brother and sister, and off Danny goes. They're like brother and sister in that way, and that's really clever. And at the end, we get this great scene with them because Clark's watched her, be a diplomat, be a wedding officiator, and help the people that are starving, basically, or help with. It's complicated. And at the end, he says, I just feel I should be doing more as Superman. You're out there every day doing so much, all the conflict zones, charity. How can I justify being Clark Kent in the face of that? And she says, we were blessed with many gifts, Clark. We can both leap tall buildings and race locomotives, but you were given one gift that I don't have. And he says, heat vision. And she smiles and says, no, you can write. We both need someone to tell the world what we're doing. Superman has Lois Lane. I need Clark Kent to tell people they don't need a magic lasso or silver bracelets to make a difference. Anyone can be a hero by offering 4 simple words. How can I help? Use your gift, Clark. Heroes come and go, but stories last forever. That's really, really great stuff. Because it highlights how the two characters are very similar in a lot of ways. I mean, Wonder Woman was essentially created to be the female alternative to Superman. Marsden wanted to create a female hero that's just as powerful, just as cool and likable and interesting as Superman and Batman were, so he created Wonder Woman. And so they have a lot of similarities, but the really interesting things are in how they are different from one another. And this highlights their differences, but also shows why it's a good thing that they're different, why one isn't better than the other, but how they feed off of each other and create a more cohesive, more accepting universe. So I really like that. That was really clever, really good stuff. The one thing I don't like about this, and not like that there's anything wrong with the cover, but the cover of this book, it's clearly a New 52 costume, and she's like slayed some monsters. And that has nothing to do with any of the stories. Like, my big complaint for the first volume was that one of the issues with Wonder Woman fighting or going up against Darkseid, the cover was Wonder Woman and Superman hanging out in space. I'm like, that's not at all what happened in any of the issues, especially not the one with Darkseid. Superman doesn't even show up in that. And so, like, I guess this book just has a really hard time with getting covers that accurately preview what's going on. Because, like, when I saw the cover, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't have a problem with Wonder Woman killing monsters. She is as much a Greek myth hero as she is a modern myth superhero. It's just, I saw the cover, it's an old New 52 costume, she's slaying monsters. I'm like, okay, cool, we're going to get a New 52 story, because most of the writers have tended to shy away from New 52 Wonder Woman, and they have their reasons, that's fine. I think there's only been one story in that continuity. At least obviously in that continuity. So I was a little disappointed by that. I was hoping to see someone go take it on again, but maybe no one at DC really knows what's going on in this book, and they just look at the cover and go, "Oh, good, they're doing our Wonder Woman or whatever." And I like both. I really do. But yeah, it's just kind of a funny little thing that they. Clearly, implications given on the cover are not at all what we get in the issue. So, yeah, that was a thing that happened. Overall, really good book, though. The main story was a little weak. It's still passable, just kind of okay. But the backup story is what really made it work for me, and I think it makes it one of the best issues so far. This is one of my favorite books right now. It's just so damn refreshing to have, one and done kind of stories in comics again, because no one's doing that right now. So, it's not being done enough right now. Grant Morrison's 18 Days, number 5. So, like, I don't want to explain the plot of this book because it is complicated. Like all things Grant Morrison has his hands in. The war is started up finally, and we're actually starting to see the battle, which is what I really wanted. And And the battle is pretty damn epic. Like, I'll just show you the last page. It's not even like a nuke. It's something else entirely. Like, I mean, you look at the cover and you obviously assume, okay, it's kind of like magic with Indian mythology, and that's part of it. But it really is like a different thing. Is there a good full page of it? Nah. So they shoot like this arrow thing, and yeah. If that's a good enough preview of it. If not, we can continue. It's hard to get this. There we go. Yeah, it's certainly just a really big, epic explosion at the end of the issue, and that's kind of neat. And the war is really going at this point. There's not a lot of character stuff. It's you know, the families are all fighting against each other, and they all kind of hate each other for being in this situation. But it's still just really friggin' awesome epicness. Like, it does feel kind of like those Lord of the Rings battles, that just those grand scale epic, you know, battles on screen and stuff, and that's kind of what we're getting here, and it's damn cool. There's a flying machine at the beginning of it that was neat. Like, a lot of this issue, there's not much plot in this, and I'm okay with that because I've been wanting more battle and less plot since we had, you know, 4 issues of plot, and now we finally get some battle. There's a sweet-ass futuristic-y flying machine in it. So you get, like, this weird technological, there's a term for that. I don't know. Advanced technology, but in the past. Except it's not really the past, it's a mythological universe. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, but like I said, there's not much to talk about with this book. This issue, at least, it's too complicated to summarize for you. So just go get it and enjoy it. Doctor Who, the Eighth Doctor, #1. Yay! Paul McGann's the Doctor. Yay! So we're getting, I don't know, is this a mini-series or... It's hard to tell. I think it's just supposed to be a mini-series. We got a 9th Doctor story, then we got the 4 Doctors, and now we're getting a 8th Doctor story. I'm hoping that they do stuff with the classic Doctors as well sometime. That'd be cool if, like, we got, you know, a story arc with each of the classic Doctors, you know, once a year or something, or once every however many, you know what I mean, 5 months between. It would work out somehow. So anyway, the Doctor goes to his house on Earth, because, yeah, the Doctor has a house that just kind of sits vacant. And there's a squatter who just lives there and paints stuff in it, like paintings in it. And all the paintings are of aliens. So that alien species that the Doctor can clearly identify, but she's just a normal present-day Earth girl. So what's up with that? And then they go to the pub later, and the paintings all come to life, or some of her work comes to life and walks right out of the canvas. The Eighth Doctor's screwdriver is kind of neat. Where's it at? There we go. It's a neat screwdriver right there. The lizard is crawling through my Legos, if you're hearing that. So yeah, we got the paintings come to life, and the Doctor finds a way to have her solve it by telling her to go paint him, and he comes to life and solves the problem. The painting of him comes to life and solves the problem, because the real him is being held captive by the aliens. And he's really curious about her because she's got these weird particles surrounding her, and he's not sure why that's the case. And so obviously there's something really strange going on with this girl beyond just that she's painting aliens. It's that she's painting aliens and she has these particles that can help bring them to life. And so he's not sure what's going on, and that's why that's why she's going to be his new companion. He's stuck. I'll get him. Excuse me briefly. So anyway, continuing on about Doctor Who, since someone has to be a brat, so yeah, the Doctor's really curious about this girl, and that he's taking her on as a companion, to figure out why she's got these abilities, and she's got some kind of particles that allowed her to make the paintings come to life, and it's Doctor Who, it's all so complicated. No, but it was really good. It was a really cool story, and I like that the first issue resolves this conflict that it sets up, at least in part. I'm sure we're going to get more into why she has this ability. It's interesting that at least two, I don't know what's going on with the girl that's around with Matt Smith's Doctor, but it's interesting that two of the companions for the Doctor Who comic books that are created for the comic books are artists. That's kind of interesting, because that's what I really like about Gabby, is she's an artist, so she draws the Doctor from time to time and creates little comics within the comic, which is really fun. But yeah, good first issue. I actually really like the Eighth Doctor. I know, he's only got the one movie, but Paul McGann is the best part of that movie. And then, I've listened to a number of his audio dramas, and I thought those were pretty good. They're just so expensive. It's paying like $40 for an episode of Doctor Who, and that's just not worth it. So I do like the Eighth Doctor, though, and so it's exciting to see him back in the comics. I haven't read any of his old comics, but I am very tempted to get a hold of those. Paul McGann just has so much of a personality as the Doctor. He's very he's called the romantic Doctor and stuff, and he is just. He's just a really fun guy, and he's got a sense of humor about it, from the little we do have of him, and he certainly plays things up more in the audio adventures than in any of the stuff we've had of him on film. But no, I do really like his stuff. I think he's a really good Doctor, and he's in this weird place where he's not a classic Doctor and he's not a modern Doctor. He's just kind of off on his own. He's a middle Doctor. So yeah, the art in this it's alright. It's not great or anything. It's just okay. It's so weird because all the Doctor Who books are doing this. They're actually taking pictures of the Doctors and using them, and those don't always line up with what we're getting representing the character throughout the book. Like his sonic screwdriver in this is kind of like that red circle one that we see John Hurt's Doctor use. If that's not too glary, there you go. That's the best view you're going to get of it. On the cover, it's that screwdriver, but in the comic, it's this kind of unique looking one that, there's a good panel of it. There we go. So you get like a kind of a unique look to the Screwdriver it's kind of like a blend between David Tennant and Matt Smith. So, yeah, he's just doing his own thing. I like it. I'm enjoying it. I'm excited for the rest of it. Because I believe it is only a miniseries, not an ongoing. Really? That quick, huh? Who would have known? This book I got just because of the cover. I mean, look at that cover. How could you not get that? That's an awesome cover. I actually really like Marvin the Martian. I think he's a really cool character. He's one of my favorite Looney Tunes. As an adult, at least. As a kid, no, he wasn't. But as an adult, I do like Marvin the Martian. But I haven't been reading Green Lantern since John's left the book because I was just really disappointed by his ending story and everything. I just felt that the final arc of pretty much the entire New 52 part of Jeff Johns' run was just really disappointing. Yeah, I did not like that at all. Or not at all. It's just there were a lot of things about it that I didn't like. It just became really obvious that Jeff Johns doesn't know how to end a story. He's got like that Peter Jackson thing. And so every story arc would kind of just get cut short in order to lead into the next one, and that got on my nerves. So I dropped the book after he left just because I didn't have much confidence in whoever else was coming on. And this is alright, but it doesn't really inspire me to want to get back on the book. And to be fair, it's not really meant to. It's just they're wrapping up their own story arc that they've been doing for however many months now. It just happens to have a really catchy, eye-catching cover. Maybe they could have planned that better and the writers could have finished it up before this cover was about to be released so that because it seems like they're starting a new story arc. With, like, the last page is some kind of terrorist plot against Coast City and Hal Jordan's talking about going home. Balang region was known as the sovereign nation of Modoran. Modoran's the language. Fake country. In the sovereign nation of fake country. If there are any Modoran listeners, I apologize. Modera listeners. Yeah, Modoran. I don't know. So it seems like they're setting up a new story arc, so I don't know, maybe this was a good idea because it gets people to go, oh, hey, Green Lantern again, and they are setting up something else, so maybe I should pick that up. I don't know. It's just disappointing to me. I just don't have much interest in it. Hal takes Blackhand to the source wall where Relic is, and I remember Relic from Green Lantern New Guardians, and he had a big part to play in that book and in the Green Lantern universe for a while. So it looks like all that stuff with the New Gods is still going on. So he takes Blackhand there, and Blackhand almost escapes, but then gets sucked into the source wall and becomes a part of it, and there's a crack in the source wall that closes because it now has itself back. So yeah, I was just kind of like, it's alright, it's not good. Danny, did you like Marvin the Martian? Can we get you a Marvin the Martian hat? We can make it out of Legos so you can get your head stuck in it. Stupid. Stop encouraging me. Anyway, no, I don't have a ton to say. It's not good. It's not bad. It's a comic book. It's kind of just meh. I just didn't really care for it that much and didn't make me want to pick up Green Lantern anymore. Maybe if... Tell you what. If someone's reading Green Lantern and they ask me to pick it up in the comments, I'll get at least the new story arc until that ends. Just to see how it goes. We'll see how it turns out, though. I don't know. Let's go ahead and move on to trade talk, except not really. Speaking of Green Lantern, though, so just give me 1 second while you sit in your seat wondering what I could possibly mean. You know, I'm wearing a Superman shirt today, and I at least did talk about a Superman story, but I should probably have been wearing, you know, a Green Lantern shirt. Because, speaking of Green Lantern, I got a hold of the 4-issue miniseries that came out in 2000, Green Lantern versus Alien. It's one of those interesting little things that we got because it was the 2000s and people didn't quite know what to make of everything, and you know, it was crossover time and stuff like that. And so we got this interesting little story about what would happen if the Green Lanterns came across the Xenomorphs. And you may notice it's clearly Hal on the first cover and then Kyle on the second. And that seemed really strange to me. I knew this was not in any continuity, or not like in actual continuity anymore. So I was kind of wondering, did they put them like as a team or something? Because that's a weird decision. But no. What happens in the first issue, and you could almost read, if you really wanted to, the first issue just on its own and consider that the Green Lantern Aliens crossover. A little disappointing. If that was all it was. But on the last page, we see a setup for where the rest of the story comes from. So let me talk about the first issue. This takes place in space where the Xenomorphs have landed or have developed a nest. And the Green Lanterns are called in to fight them, by the Guardians. They're called in to go deal with the problem. And just gonna go through this. I miss early 2000s pages. Green Lanterns are investigating the alien nest, and then they're attacked by the Xenomorphs. Really cool art in this. I'll get to a little nerdy complaint in a second here, though. So they're attacked by the Xenomorphs, and the Green Lanterns rally together and are able to form a bubble around themselves, and the aliens are completely ineffective at that point. They have absolutely no way to get through the bubble. Their acid blood doesn't affect the constructs, because why would it? And so they talk about, well, what do we do with these things? Do we just kill them all? And Hal's like, no, we're not exterminators. We have power over them. They're just instinctual. They're like, sharks. Sure, they're dangerous, but that doesn't mean you just kill them. And so the Green Lanterns take all the Xenomorphs off of whatever planet they happen to be on and deposit them on an uninhabited world where they'll be safe and no one will be harmed by them. Mogo! And the idea is, well, it's just a good way to help them out because they're just kind of dumb animals. And it's a good way to help Mogo, or it's a good way to help the rest of the world out. So that way Mogo can keep them isolated from other people that go and land on the planet. Only problem is, Hal Jordan destroys the Green Lantern Corps, and Mogo is less than sentient now. and a ship crashes on Mogo. And this takes place 10 years after the xenomorphs were deposited on Mogo. So, we get the Green Lanterns that helped Hal. Oh, whoops, that's issue number 3. Issue number 2, however, is right here. The Green Lanterns that helped Hal deposit the xenomorphs there, go and find Kyle Rayner on Earth, and they get him to come help them on this mission to, because the ship crashed on Mogo, so they get him to come and help and fight the monsters, the aliens. And there's like some butting of heads because Kyle doesn't do things the way that Green Lanterns normally do, and yada yada yada, and like that was the entirety of Kyle's run on Green Lantern is, well, you don't do things the way Hal Jordan did. Nope, I sure don't. And they get on the ship and they meet like a scantily clad woman who points a gun at Kyle, and they talk a bunch and decide to go try and save her crew with her and blah blah blah. They're cornered by a pit by the xenomorphs, and all the lanterns are carried off except for Kyle and the girl and Salak. But as Kyle tries to save one of the lanterns from falling into the pit, his ring slips off, which, as a plot point, doesn't make any sense. Because the ring's not supposed to just be able to be slipped off. Especially not while you're concentrating on trying to save somebody's life. So, yeah. Also, the other complaint I had is the xenomorphs. They look like traditional xenomorphs, which would be fine if they'd infected humans, but they didn't. They infected random aliens. See the problem there? So it's a stupid little nitpicky complaint, but it still bothered me, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the problem with this book, and I'll summarize the rest of it here just real quick. Kyle and the girl go down to the pit to try to save everybody. Kyle is forced to make the decision to kill one of the monsters since he has a gun now and can't save everybody with the ring and keep the aliens alive. He makes the decision to kill one of them, and they eventually get down to the queen in the nest, and Kyle makes the decision once he's able to get a hold of his ring that the only right thing to do is to kill all of the xenomorphs. Which I'm a little vague on that one. So I think the problem with the book, and why it's not really fondly remembered, is that, if you're going to have a Green Lantern Xenomorph crossover, someone that's a fan of both properties should probably write it. And I feel like whoever wrote this was maybe a fan of Alien, but not really, because the Xenomorphs don't really do much at all. But they definitely weren't really big into Green Lantern. At least not... I certainly don't get that impression from what I read. This really did just feel like kind of a phoned-in crossover for sales' sake, as opposed to someone actually had a story to tell. And so I was disappointed by that. But Kyle and Slock have a conversation about why they didn't just kill the xenomorphs in the first place, And Salak says something to the effect of, well, it was a nobler time back then. We could actually stick to our ideals, and we didn't have to make hard choices that often. The Green Lantern Corps seemed undefeatable at that time. And then, so Kyle making the decision to kill all the xenomorphs and some Green Lanterns because they'd been infected. It just made sense at that point that that's what you do, because there's a no-win scenario. You either go deposit them on another planet and wait for this to happen again, or you just get rid of the fucks. And so he chooses to just kill them all because they don't contribute anything. They're just mindless animals and they're too dangerous to be kept alive. And so that's his arc, and he wonders if he made the right decision. It's not a very good crossover. I was ultimately disappointed by it. The novelty of Green Lantern versus Alien wears off after the first issue. And really is one of those things where it might just be worth reading the first issue and then that's it. Skip the last 2 pages. Because all you do is see the ship crash, and I don't know. I was certainly disappointed by the story. It wasn't nearly as good as I feel it could have been. It's not like any of the ideas in it are bad. I don't feel like they were explored enough. Because, it's only 4 issues, and it's a really basic plot. Let's go save this crew. Okay, we can't. Let's kill all the xenomorphs. And there's an android twist in it, and I guess that's just a thing with Alien, is you need to have an android show up somewhere randomly. So I don't know. I was certainly disappointed by it, though. I thought you could have gone a lot of different places with this, or at least done something that was more fun in a novel way than what we get. Because it really is just, Green Lantern, we got to take his ring away because otherwise they're too easy to defeat, versus the xenomorphs. Well, if they're too easy to defeat, you throw more at them and you find a way to make them actually a threat to Kyle. Kyle didn't have the yellow weakness, obviously, but you could have done something. You could have, overwhelmed him, or just made his, battery level too low for him to do too much against them, so that he would have had to be smart about how he was fighting them. Just, there are other things you could have done. You could have made it a lot more fun in a novel sort of way, as opposed to just pretty typical kind of meh story. I wasn't thrilled by this, obviously. If you are curious and you want to get it, try and find just the first issue. And if that doesn't do it for you, don't bother buying the others. If you can only find the whole story arc and you can get it cheap, I got this with the Predator vs. JLA comic that came out around the same time. So for me, it was worthwhile getting them together like that. It made the whole thing worth I think $18 I spent on it, plus whatever shipping. So if you can get a good price on it, and you're a really big Alien fan or a really big Green Lantern fan, then it might work for you. But for me, it was just okay. It was pretty typical story. So that will do it for this week's episode of Comic Reviews. I still have JLA vs. Predator, but that's really short, so I might do that and the final volume I have of Matt Wagner's Zorro, or possibly the Princess Leia trade I picked up today. They just released that, I guess, and I was curious about the series, but I couldn't find all the issues, so I may do that. We'll see which one I'm in the mood for this weekend. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you have a comic book series that is coming out that you would like me to pick up and give my thoughts on, I promise to pick up at least one issue if I can find it. And if I like it enough, I will add it to my pull list. If you have any trades that you know of that you would like to hear me talk about, please leave them in the comments below. And I will do my best to get a hold of it, and I'll keep an eye out for it. I can't promise anything. Some trades are, all over the place. But I will do my very best to try and find a copy, and I will talk about it here on the show. So until next time, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Bye. Hi. Dumb butt. Danny, how did you do this? You're ridiculous. This is why no one likes you. Get out of the Lego. Keep going. Keep backing up, mister. Here, you come sit with me. Yes, I know. Okay.